Thwip.
Last time we saw Spider-Man, he was getting ousted by the Daily Bugle and Mysterio as not only Peter Parker, but also a murderer of the greatest hero the world has ever and will ever know, Mysterio, of course. Quentin Beck. That being said, this isn't a discussion of Far From Home. It's a discussion of No Way Home for our 43rd episode of Project Geekology. Thank you for joining us today. We're really excited to talk about probably the biggest movie of the year. It is the biggest movie of the year. Let's be honest. I haven't spoken about this outside of like Twitter and like, you know, my friend group and stuff. So this is going to be a fun exchange for me, and I think for you as well, Anthony.
Oh yeah. You and I, we both saw it opening day. You and I, we just text each other, dude.
yeah, that's funny. Yeah, you were like, dude, and I was just like, dude, kind of like Peter and Ned do in the beginning of this film.
And that was unintentional. Just like...
that was not. Yeah, that is a coincidence. That's just our gut reactions to this film. But we're very excited to talk about it. As always, my name is Dakota, and I'm joined with
Anthony.
Yes,
as always,
your hosts for this evening or this morning, whenever you're listening to this. I don't know.
True.
For us, it's evening. I have had a busy couple weeks, which is why we haven't been recording as much. I've actually just kind of like put a hiatus, a sabbatical, if you will, for Geekritique and the podcast in general. Unfortunately, until my life cools down a little bit. So I just wanted to explain that a little bit. I've kind of, I don't want to say it was burnout, but it was like life burnout. I've had so much stuff going on in the past like couple weeks. I've been moving boxes into a new apartment that I'm going to be living in. So this will be the last time I record the podcast here in this home. So next time we record, I don't know when exactly that'll be or what the topic will be. It will be in my new apartment, which I'm excited about, I'm nervous about, and overall got a lot of stress about, but it's going smoothly so far. Jen has a new job in the area. My job is very close to where we're going to be moving. So I'm excited about the change, even though it's a little scary.
Yes. So yeah, we'll have this little break, and you know, we're not gonna call it a hiatus, because I know that's a little scary to say, and it's indefinite. But we are taking a little bit of a break. I know that you want to take care of some stuff, and that'll allow me to be able to kind of take care of some stuff that I want to take care of also. But I know that when we come back, we'll come back fresh, and I know that we kind of had a little bit of a schedule set up, and that kind of got tossed to the wayside, but that's just because things are a little crazy.
It got seriously destroyed by the wayside. Yeah, no, I want to say it's at least a good 80% my fault, just because of scheduling and just life stuff that just keeps happening. Like, this is one of the only nights in the past like 2 weeks that I've just had alone to sit and talk with you, so this works out really well. And yeah, going off of what you said with a hiatus being kind of a scary thing, especially for podcasts. When a podcast says they're going on hiatus, it means never again will I ever hear from these people. But I don't want that to be the case. I actually have, I want to say that we have plans for the new year. I want to make a nice new logo and like thumbnail structure for our podcast moving forward. I think that will really jazz up the production value and everything, and it'll be more eye-catching maybe.
Yes. Part of why I was saying, you know, I didn't want to say hiatus is, we both, you and I, we plan to come back, and you know, when things are situated and the dust kind of settles, we do plan to come back. The plan isn't, you know, some super long break, but you know, like I said, life happens, and we want to take care of things in our lives, and I do, as well as the fans, do appreciate that you're taking this time to get this one last episode out before the new year, especially a big one. We're going to be talking about Spider-Man, and so
just to step in a little bit, like, I told Anthony, dude, I gotta take a break. I'm sorry. And then all of a sudden I was just like, but you know what? Spider-Man's coming out. We gotta do something for Spider-Man. That seems like a big deal. And it turned out I was correct. It's one of the biggest movies I've ever seen. It's one of the best theater experiences I've ever had.
Oh, yes. I don't think I've ever. Sorry to interject there.
No, it's okay.
I don't think I've ever had any of the Marvel movies where the tickets were selling out and I had to worry about getting a ticket before the seat sold out. Out of all of them, even the first Avengers, I was able to go there first night, easy. Yeah,
and just walk in. Yeah, so we're going to talk all about that. Anthony, what have you been up to this past couple weeks since we talked last?
So I've done a couple of things. I mean, I've been playing video games and whatnot, obviously. I've been playing Halo Infinite, which is actually really interesting. This is like the first open world like Halo that I've ever played.
Is it the first open world Halo in general, or?
Yeah, well, okay, yeah. I think this is by saying ever played. Yeah, that's like the first ever like open world. Although Halo 3 ODST had kind of some elements of open world to it, but it wasn't 100%. This one is a lot more like It has like an open map. It has like these little objectives that you can do, and then there's like story missions that you travel to, and it's been pretty fun. I'm like, wow, it's a different Halo. It kind of has like that old OG Halo charm to it, but it has that new element that kind of adds like a fresh breath to it that Halo 4 and Halo 5 kind of failed at.
That sounds fun.
Right. And then I sent you a picture a couple of weeks ago of my TV that I added some lights to the back. It's this
that was your TV?
Yes.
I just thought that you found that online and you were sending that to me. That looks really cool.
It's from a brand called Govee, and it's really cool because it's not like the Philip Hue light. Those are like super like crazy and like super like accurate, but this one does give you a good bang for the buck. It's a lot cheaper than the Hue lights, but it works like pretty well. Calibration is key.
Yeah, what Anthony's talking about is it's like LED lights that go on the back of the TV or in the back of your setup, and depending on what's on the screen, it kind of amplifies the colors and the color palette, and like semi-dim lights kind of brightens up the wall behind it with those different colors.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that's pretty cool, and eventually that's something that I probably want to do. Do you think it enhances the viewing experience, or does it get distracting?
No, like I feel like so when you first like get it, like you're like really really like looking at it like, oh my gosh, this and that. But like now, like I'm at a place where I feel like it kind of enhances the experience, especially that I don't know if you saw that video I showed you with the Rogue One scene with Darth Vader.
Yes.
And so yeah, like I mean, when he ignites his lightsaber, like it was like that deep red that the lightsabers are, and so when he's like deflecting the blaster fire, you could see like the whites and like the red kind of like clashing, and it's like flashing against the wall. It's really really cool.
That's awesome. That's actually, I think that'd be a really cool experience. I got to check it out at some point. Cool. Anything else you've been up to?
So yeah, no. Just gaming as usual. There's the Overwatch winter event right now, so I'm out there grinding and collecting the skins and
nice.
And having a good time, and then kind of bouncing between that and Halo Infinite.
Nice. Sounds good.
Yes. And yeah, so that's really kind of what I've been up to. What about you, Dakota? I know that you have a lot going on. You just told us that you're getting ready to move into your own space, which I know that is a bit of a nerve-wracking thing, but I know that at the end of the day, kind of having your own space and your own kind of sanctuary is going to be beneficial for you and Jen.
there are like a bunch of different like pros to this scenario. So I'm really excited about the move. As far as like what I've been up to in terms of content and geekiness and stuff, I've been re-listening to the High Republic books. This is my third go around. I really love this series, so I've been listening to those. That's been fun. The third wave of books is coming out in January, so if you just want to read the primary books in the series, I recommend just The Light of the Jedi, and then its direct sequel, The Rising Storm. And then the new book by Claudia Gray is coming out called The Fallen Star. That's the third book in the trilogy.
Is Eclipse going to bring you back into gaming?
Dude, okay, Eclipse looks amazing. Supposedly it takes place in the High Republic period, although that's a large stretch of time, a couple hundred years probably. I don't know that it actually necessarily works in with any of the books or comics that are currently available within the High Republic setting, but I'm really excited to check out Eclipse, especially, even though we only got a cinematic trailer. There's no gameplay or anything yet. We have no idea what the story is, but it does look really cool. As far as anything else, I rewatched all the Spider-Man live action movies.
All of them?
Going into No Way Home. So I watched the three Raimi trilogy, or the three films in the Raimi trilogy. That's what we grew up on, Anthony. I haven't seen those in maybe 12 years. I don't think I've seen them since I've lived in New York. So that was a fun revisit. I love those movies so much, man. I watched the two Mark Webb films with Andrew Garfield, and you know what? I like them more than I remembered them. I think that they are a little over-scrutinized for their faults, and not enough is talked about, like, their highs. Everyone focuses on the lows in that series, but nobody focuses on, like, there's some really cool stuff in that. So that was fun to revisit. I don't think I had seen any of those movies like after the second one was in theaters. I watched the second one in theaters and I just never revisited them.
Yeah,
but it was worthwhile for No Way Home, obviously.
We'll be back after a quick break.
I hate talking.
Do you love talking about any topic and are never frustrated during conversations? Then I Hate Talking is not a podcast for you.
But if there are topics that you avoid, then listen to I Hate Talking.
Do you know the definition of every word others use? I Hate Talking is not a podcast for you.
But if you are curious about the definition and historical usage of words, then listen to I Hate Talking.
Do you know about current events and other random topics? Then I Hate Talking is not a podcast for you.
But if you enjoy conversations on a variety of topics, then listen to I Hate Talking.
Listen to I Hate Talking wherever you get your podcasts.
Episodes drop every Thursday. Listen, like, and follow I Hate Talking today.
I think the Andrew Garfield ones, I just don't think we were ready for them yet.
I think that might be it.
I think that it was too soon after Tobey. I mean, because Tobey Maguire really is beloved as a Spider-Man, or as a Peter Parker, and so I just don't think that we were ready. I don't think that the writing was 100% on there. I don't know if they tapped into Andrew Garfield's strengths, because I mean, he's a really good actor. I mean, he's not bad at all. Like, I mean, I don't know if you've seen Hacksaw Ridge. I mean, he really performed.
He might actually be the best actor to ever play the role of Peter Parker, but like with the worst scripts.
Right.
And that being said, the scripts aren't all that bad. They're actually really enjoyable movies if you kind of, gloss over some science fiction stuff that doesn't really make sense. That being said, I also, but there's also like stuff in like reality that doesn't make any sense. Like in the first one, there's the shot where Andrew Garfield is like limping, and all of a sudden, like in the middle of the night, there's a bunch of cranes in the middle of like New York City that just automatically align. Like all these union workers presumably came back from work and all in sync from different job sites, made a path for Andrew Garfield to swing down. It was just so ridiculous. But that bothers me, as well as like in the second one, there's the part where Electro is in Times Square.
It's like a video game.
Those
cranes. It's like a video game.
Yes, exactly. It felt like a video game. But in Amazing Spider-Man 2, there's a scene where Electro is in Times Square, and there's like a news crew that like captures his face, and all of a sudden you see it broadcast on all the screens in Times Square. And I'm thinking, like, how much would that cost for the news station to suddenly, remove all the advertisements in Times Square and just put Jamie Foxx's face on every screen? That just doesn't seem likely.
But get off the screen! Get off the screen! We're gonna broadcast this. No ads. No, I get you. Yeah, there's like a lot of like stuff that's like video gamey.
Yeah, it's dumb, but it's enjoyable. It's campy, but at the end of the day, it's a Spider-Man movie, and I think Andrew Garfield is an underrated Spider-Man. So then I jumped into the Homecoming and Far From Home, and I love both of those movies for different reasons.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people criticize Far From Home for being like a very not Spider-Man type film, even though Spider-Man is the main character, but I enjoy that film. I think it's a fun romp through Europe, and it's the only time in, I think, the MCU that we actually do that.
Yeah, but it was an enjoyable film.
Yeah,
and
I think Homecoming is probably the stronger of the two.
I did enjoy Jake Gyllenhaal as Mysterio. That was
he nailed it.
Yeah, he did. It was a really good performance. But yeah, you really did. You did your homework.
I did not watch any of the Venom movies. I haven't seen them yet. I haven't seen either of the Venom movies yet, and I didn't rewatch Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, so I just did the live action, the 7 live action Spider-Man films that Hollywood produced. So anyway, with that being said, shall we jump into our discussion of No Way Home?
Let us do it. Do you want to have like a small little like non-spoiler section? It doesn't have to be. I mean, you don't have to watch No Way Home, or you wouldn't have had to see it to know that Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire are in this film, because everybody,
literally,
is, like,
everyone and their mom is talking about it. I feel bad for people waiting to see it on streaming, but honestly, this is news that's been available and like rumored and highly talked about for over a year. So you kind of have to expect that this is the most logical thing that's going to happen in this movie. Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield are in it. But as far as a general no spoiler thing goes, I'll say that I'm really happy with the direction that they're moving with the Spider-Man movies and the Spider-Man character. I think that in some ways, the MCU has amplified his character, but in other ways, it's made his story less personal. And I think that by the end of this movie, we get a far more personal Peter Parker story that I think is going to make a really good college trilogy.
Yeah, something that I was really saying about this film is that I felt like there was so much more like emotional impact in this film than the other two, and it's not just because a lot of what was happening, but like, dude, I just felt like there's so much emotion in this film, dude. Like I felt like everybody in this film acted their hearts out, man. Like everybody brought their A game in this film.
Yep.
And totally loved it. I enjoyed every second of this film. I don't think that there was a moment in this film that I felt bored.
No, and I don't think it's specifically designed to keep you from getting bored, because there's so much that actually happens. But as far as I still think that Spider-Man 2 is the best Spider-Man movie, but this comes in at a close second for me.
So the reason why it was hard for me to say this, because as much as I like Tobey Maguire, Tobey Maguire might be my favorite, but the reason why I like this film so much is that I felt like it did so much to enhance. Like, I felt like all of these old characters really just they were given a chance to show like more. You're able to see more of these characters that you loved in that role, or they were given a second chance to really show that what they can do. I felt like Jamie Foxx's Electro in the Amazing Spider-Man 2. I felt like the performance was a little weak in that film, but I felt like he was amazing in this film. He did such a good job in this film. He sold me on it. He sold me that like, I mean, he was so good at it. The Lizard, like, I felt like we didn't get too much. I felt like we got some of him, but I felt like he was a little bit more in the back burner. Right. But I still enjoyed it. I still enjoyed his character. You know, it was nice to see Sandman, which, believe it or not, I think that the beginning of Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man 3, I feel like the beginning was good. Where it loses you was like the second half of the film.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into Spider-Man 3, and I had this discussion with my dad, like, you know, they're putting all these villains in No Way Home. Isn't that the problem with Spider-Man 3? And I was just like, you know, I think a lot of people think that's the problem with Spider-Man 3. But the problem is there are 3 different storylines that don't really connect all that well. You know, you have the Sandman stuff where they're going back and retelling the story of how Ben died, and then this guy's trying to reach his family. Then you have the almost like Shakespearean drama of Harry becoming his father and, you know, trying to kill Peter for, you know, in revenge and whatever. So there's that whole storyline. And then there's the Topher Grace, Eddie Brock Venom story that is a little, you know, it's really visually realized. And it looks great, actually. If you go back to it, it looks great. But altogether, these 3 stories don't really make sense together. And each of them should have been their own contained story. But with No Way Home, each of the villains that reappear fit neatly into the story being told. And I think that is a very strong trait of this movie, is the connective tissue that each of these characters has with this the MCU's Peter Parker all of a sudden, and you know, what he wants to do with them. Yeah.
And I think that's why I like No Way Home, because I think that it did more than just it was 100% a fan service film that we all wanted to see, and it was executed excellently. But it also gave some of these people a second chance. Like, let me tell you, I loved Andrew Garfield's performance in this movie. He did so good, man. And like, and they low-key addressed the fact that he's not the most favorable Spider-Man. They addressed it. Did. They addressed it. How he said that he was lame, and then Tobey Maguire was like, "No, you're amazing." And that was almost adding to the fact that his films were called The Amazing Spider-Man.
Oh yeah. No, it was definitely on it was definitely on purpose what he said. But there's I think that's I'm gonna cut you off there just briefly to mention that I don't think we're gonna be able to talk non-spoilers in this discussion at this point. We're too far in. So okay. I apologize.
I thought we were in spoiler section already.
No, it's okay. We're too far in. I apologize if you haven't seen it. Please stop listening if you don't wish to be spoiled any further. But there's a lot more reveals in this than you might believe there to be. So
right.
Let's keep talking. You were talking about the interactions between Toby and Andrew, and yeah, they definitely play on the fact that Andrew, you know, he's down on himself. Like, he's never fought aliens before, while Toby and Tom's Spider-Man have, which is pretty funny. So he's just like, man, I'm lame. You know, I fought I fought a Russian guy in a mechanical rhino suit.
You know, I absolutely loved how they were all Peter Parker, but they all had like their own personalities, and really it was the actors themselves kind of, you know, like it was their personality that bled into, you know, into Peter Parker. And I really, really do, like, I love Tom Holland's, like, interaction. Like, I think he does a really, really good job at, like, both. And I feel like we get like a good blend of Spider-Man and Peter Parker in this movie.
So I wanted to talk about that. You know, I've seen some tweets and everything about, like, talking about this, and the one that struck me, I don't know the exact quote, but basically it was saying, if Into the Spider-Verse was about being Spider-Man, then No Way Home was about being Peter Parker.
Yeah.
And to add on to that, I think it's about the moral fortitude and responsibility of being Peter Parker and what that means, balanced alongside having the responsibilities of Spider-Man. And dude, they nailed it, in my opinion. I think that is my biggest takeaway from this movie.
And I feel like where they inserted the other two Peter Parkers, I feel like where they put them in the film was like perfect placement, man. It was such perfect placement. It wasn't like way at the beginning. You know, we were all like, you know, everybody's like at kind of like at the edge of their seat, like waiting for this to happen. You know, like, oh man, you know, but there was so much to enjoy in the beginning of that film, even before the other two introduced. And
yeah, definitely.
Man, let me tell you, bro, it was so good seeing Alfred Molina as, you know, Doc Ock. It was, dude, when you see him, you're like, it's almost like this film is called No Way Home, but you feel like you're at home when you see him, because it's like it's a familiar face. You're like, man, like I remember seeing him in Spider-Man 2, and that was the best that I had seen in like all of Spider-Man, you know? And so
yeah,
I think that was such a like good introduction to all the villains. It was great seeing him. I really do like that Tom Holland's Iron Spider suit had that nanotechnology that controlled his arms.
Yeah, there was a lot of like really fun interactions. Going back to that, you know, discussing Alfred Molina a little bit. By the way, listeners, we're going to be jumping around from beginning to end, back and forth. Of course. We're going to double up on our discussion of several things, I'm sure. So bear with us. We're just itching to talk about any and all things related to No Way Home. But I love the interaction that Alfred Molina had with Tobey Maguire when he's just like, he calls him dear boy and says it's good to see you, and then he's just like, oh, you've grown up, how are things? And you know, Tobey says his line like, trying to do better, which was a line from Spider-Man 2. And dude, I got so emotional in that scene where, you know, because rewatching all the Spider-Man movies, a common theme in almost every single one is the fact that Peter is someone who doesn't have a father, but he's latching on to father figures or people he thinks that could be mentors. You know, in the first film, he loses Uncle Ben, and he kind of like latches on to Norman Osborn, who turns out to be a crazy psychopath. We'll talk more about Norman in a little bit. In the second film, it's very much Doc Ock. You know, they have very similar minds. They're both genius, like scientist type characters, but Doc gets controlled by the claws, the tentacles. So that is ruined by him. And jumping back to No Way Home, in this instance, you know, it's like the father figure finally gets to see the child all grown up. And it's just that balance of like what, you know, the Peter Parker mythos means. Yeah. You know, like looking for a father figure and actually like seeing that realized it's touching. It's a super touching moment. As far as Spider-Man 3 goes, I don't think there are any necessary father figures in that one. But going towards the Amazing Spider-Man thing, you had Kurt Connors, the lizard, the scientist. You know, he was trying to get closer to him because he knew that he worked with his father back in the day. And then obviously the MCU Spider-Man, he very clearly latched onto, you know, the very flawed father figure that is Tony Stark.
Yeah, he really, really did.
And then after that, Happy Hogan, you know, and then Mysterio for a short period of time.
Yeah.
So that's part of Peter's character, is, you know, trusting someone to a fault just because he thinks that they're a good role model for him. Or even, it might not even be that he thinks that. It might just be subconscious. He's looking for that figure. So in that moment, in No Way Home, with Doc Ock, you know, just having that little interaction with Tobey Maguire, and Tobey Maguire says, just trying to do better. Dude, I teared up a little bit. I got choked up. I love that so much.
I know, because Tobey Maguire is also like probably he's also probably thinking like, man, the last interaction I had with this guy, he was trying to kill me. You know, well, actually the last interaction he kind of saved everybody, but the last but I mean, he still tried to kill him. I did like the incorporation of the music from that film.
Yes, it was subtle. They incorporated the Amazing Spider-Man music as well. Yeah. Also very subtle. It's only for like small cues, but it's just kind of just they're such iconic themes, all of them, you know, that it's so good to hear them again, just to feel that emotion that they bring.
But yeah, I felt like this was such a good film, and like in your mind you know that it's an MCU film, but it just really feels like its own like really good comic book movie. I mean, down to the music, to everything, it was just like such a good comic book movie.
I've seen a couple people say that this is one of the few Marvel movies that they've seen that actively feel like you're turning the page of a comic book in like a series, you know, because you know, this comic book goes into, you know, Peter on the run and like facing the law. This next comic goes into him trying to get everyone to forget that Peter Parker is Spider-Man by going to Doctor Strange. This next one's, you know, capturing all these villains. So it feels like a comic book in that way, you know. So I think we should like go back a little bit and talk about some of the stuff in the earlier part of the film.
Yeah, I was actually about to say that. Yeah. Dude, you're right there with me, man. I was thinking, we should talk about the beginning a little bit, you know, kind of the reasons leading up to the, you know, amazing parts of the film. I mean, it's all amazing, but
yeah, so I mean, it starts pretty much at the moment right after that broadcast at the end of Far From Home ends. You know, everyone is automatically on Mysterio's side. They automatically just believe everything they hear on the news, which I think it's kind of like a meta discussion a little bit about like, don't believe everything you hear on the news, because a lot of times most times news organizations, one way or the other, are very politicized and they have their own agenda and they're trying to get the audience to believe what they want them to believe. So that is really, really incorporated into this movie. But I also think that there's a subtle messaging of like, just because the news says something and everyone believes it doesn't mean it's automatically true. So everyone automatically was trying to cancel Peter Parker. Yeah. But he was innocent. You know, he did not kill Quentin Beck, even though he was Spider-Man. So it's a interesting balance of like, you know, the news may tell you something, but you do not have the whole picture. And very rarely do we in the real world have the whole picture to be able to make that judgment of, you know, this is a bad person. This person is guilty of this crime and this crime. Yeah. So it's a good balanced take on. I don't even think it was meant to be a balanced take about cancel culture. I think it was just meant to be, you know, a Spider-Man movie, but it happened to fit those themes pretty well.
Yeah, I did kind of think about that too. Like, I was like, wow, you know, this is actually pretty relevant for this time.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's talk. Let's talk about how like J. Jonah Jameson, like at the beginning of the film, he's like recording in his like basement or something.
Yes. Yeah, dude. I loved that. I love that
Dude,
so
he had
much.
a like green screen.
And then he becomes like so instantly popular. Like I did the math, and this movie takes place, you know, if that scene happens in like mid-July, then the rest of the movie basically takes place in November. So that in the course of a few months, his news station became so popular that he got his own broadcasting station, employees and everything. So I think that that's hilarious.
I cannot remember his name. The actor for him, I love him as J. Jonah Jameson. He's like the best one.
Simmons.
It was like J.K. Simmons.
J.K. Simmons, yes.
Yes. Dude, he's like the best one, and he like I think he voices it in the game, in the Spider-Man game. Awesome. I think he does. But he's just so good. He's like really, really good, and he's kind of like a piece from our Toby verse, because he spent all three of those films portraying that character. So it was nice seeing him back in as J. Jonah Jameson.
Yeah, I love J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson. He actually took a pretty I would say that he's a villain in and of himself in this film, because of how he gets the Department of Damage Control to work against Peter Parker almost instantaneously. He has the department in his pocket. And I gotta say, like, coming from Homecoming to this film, the Department of Damage Control has really like stepped up their game. They're a militant almost like police body, but they're not actually. I don't actually know what they're. Are they police? Are they? Yeah, I don't actually know.
They were like low key FBI
in the first movie, right?
Like,
or no, you mean in this one?
In this one, yeah, they were, yeah, it was like a police force essentially, but they seemed kind of like federal. But yeah, no, it's crazy. Oh man, how about our boy?
Yes. So my theater screamed when they saw the walking stick.
Yeah,
because everyone knows that he was going to be there. But yeah, Charlie Cox coming back to reprise his role as Matt Murdock, the lawyer, the very good lawyer, was just such a fun little
tease,
Easter egg cameo sort of thing. Just gets your mind racing. Like, does that mean that all his stories previously are now canon? Is this a variant of that character, like specific to these new movies? And the possibilities are endless. And I'm really excited to see what happens with Matt Murdock, and eventually, of course, the Daredevil characters, and maybe even the rest of the Defenders that were on Netflix and stuff.
Right,
but, man,
right. And I think Kevin Feige almost confirmed it when he said that they were bringing him back. Or they're bringing him into the MCU. And I really do like Charlie Cox, though. I feel like he does a really good job as not only Daredevil, but he's a really good Matt Murdock. Like, he's good as either character.
He embodies both roles really well.
Right, yeah. And not to really spoil anything too much from Hawkeye, but there's an episode of Hawkeye where it shows a picture of somebody that it almost, big boy, Kingpin.
You spoiled it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't want to like spoil the rest of the show, but just like I want to add that
they're definitely bringing at least elements from the Daredevil series into the MCU, which I'm really excited about. And I want to say that I haven't seen the episode yet, but Wilson Fisk, aka Kingpin, played by Vincent D'Onofrio, is a main character in maybe not a main character, but a character in the final episode of Hawkeye. So I'm really excited to check that out when probably after we finish recording and editing this video, actually, or this podcast. But so yeah, what did you think when you saw Charlie Cox's Daredevil?
My theater also screamed when they saw the cane, and then screamed even more when they saw him. Yeah, I was happy. It was good. It was good to see him. And then especially when he caught that brick, because like their perception of him, they don't know about him. Their perception of him is that this man's blind. And he catches that brick, and then that was the perfect line. I'm a really good lawyer. That was perfect.
Yeah. So there is a line in that discussion that I think is worth talking about, because basically, and I think this sets up some future stuff in the MCU as well. In that discussion, he goes, basically like, Peter, I think your troubles are done. None of the allegations are going to stick. But Happy, I think you're going to need to find yourself a good lawyer. Now, there are two lawyers that I think he will either try to get. One is Matt Murdock, because he says it himself, I'm a very good lawyer. So I think that Happy might try to get him. But also Jennifer Walters from the She-Hulk series. She-Hulk is
that's true.
She's an attorney, and that's going to be coming up pretty soon. And also the fact that he has unregistered Stark Tech in his garage, basically, and he probably has more than that too. I think that's going to lead into the Armor War series that's coming down the line eventually as well. So we got some potential stories lined up just out of that conversation alone, and I'm really excited for it.
Yeah, man, it'll be great to see Charlie Cox coming back into the fold as Daredevil.
Let's jump over to Peter visiting the Sanctum.
Yeah. The kind of the reasoning behind his visit is that him, MJ, and Ned didn't get into any of their schools of choice, their universities of choice, because of the circumstances of Peter and him being under investigation for the murder of Mysterio, and so they got denied basically by association.
Yeah, their lives are essentially, at least for the time being, ruined because of their proximity to Peter Parker. And that's obviously not cool. But it's believable, I could totally see something like that happening in real life.
Yeah, especially schools like that, MIT and all that. Heck yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they don't want their name being tarnished, right. So it's easier just to dismiss the applications out of the gate. So it's because of this that Peter decides, let me go to Doctor Strange and see if I can get people to forget that I'm Peter Parker, or that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, rather, so that all my friends and family can live normal lives going forward, and I can get out of these troubles. So he goes, and I thought that the whole sequence within the Sanctum was pretty fun.
Yeah.
We have some random individuals shoveling snow. They for whatever reason, the entire place was covered in snow. I forget what the reasoning was. There was
it was
or something.
Yeah, it was like a tundra, and it blew through one of these portals, and then he's like, somebody forgot to put a seal on or something like that, like a magic seal. And it's always good seeing Wong, of course.
Wong is hilarious.
Wong is hilarious, and it is funny. He's he's the ancient one, and
the Sorcerer Supreme.
The Sorcerer Supreme. And Peter's like, "Oh, I thought you were." He's like, "Oh, he got it based on technicality."
Yeah, I was gone for 5 years, so Wong takes over, which is great. I love that kind of stuff. And it's actually, it makes sense. If the world needs a Sorcerer Supreme and Doctor Strange is gone for 5 years and, with no hope of returning anytime soon, it totally makes sense. So I thought that was fun. I think, what did you think about Doctor Strange's willingness to help Peter?
It's almost like he kind of gave into the weakness, or like he kind of gave into the desire for wanting a second chance. I mean, you know, Stephen Strange, he's been there. He's wanted that second chance, you know? He wanted to get that's the whole reason why he went and learned the mystic arts, is so that he wanted his hands back, so that he can get back to, you know, his life back to normal. So that kind of all goes down. So for him, it's like, okay, well, I can't go back in time and fix this, but it's like, okay, this is a simple spell, or so it seems that it's a simple spell of forgetting. And it's funny because Wong is like, no, don't do that. And then he's like, do you remember that the party at, I don't remember where he said it was, and Wong's like, no. He's like, yeah, exactly, that's why.
In Kamartage.
Yeah. So yeah, no, I did like the sequence. It was pretty cool. It was funny when they go down and they start, Doctor Strange starts doing the spell, and then Peter's like, oh, everybody's gonna forget? Well, I want this person to remember. And then he just like changes the spell several times.
He goes, Ned. Oh, my aunt has to remember me, and Happy, and, you know, basically everyone who knew me before all this happened. And that basically destroys the spell. You know, it was seemingly contained up until that point, right? And then the spell was just like, it got way out of hand, and Doctor Strange had to like cut it. He had to nip it in the butt. It might have worked if you know, it like went to fruition, but for whatever reason, it didn't.
Right. I think because at that point it was starting to pull in other people from the multiverse that knew Peter.
Right, yeah.
So that's why he was like, oh crap, that's why it cracked. You saw like those strands on the multiverse. He was like, oh boy.
Yes.
Let me bring this back in.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it started getting crazy. So yeah, Doctor Strange was like, I'm sorry, man. You know, this could have gotten bad, but you know, I got it contained. I'm sorry, you're gonna kind of have to just like, you know, like live with it. And it, and he's like, you know, if you pleaded your case and, you know, they didn't want to hear you out, then I'm sorry. And then Peter's like, wait, so when you said that you can call them, and then oh my gosh, Doctor Strange is like, you didn't even try before you came here and had me do a spell
to brainwash the entire
the entire. And then Peter's like, well, when you put it like that now.
And then he gets kicked out of the house. Yeah.
Oh
yeah,
my gosh.
It's really good.
Yeah, it was funny. That I liked. That was a good scene.
So basically he goes to he gets the number of someone from MIT, from Flash.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And Flash, let's talk about Flash actually for just a brief second. He has been the thorn in the side of Peter Parker's life for a long time, in terms of, you know, he's like the class bully towards Peter, but he's also simultaneously Spider-Man's biggest fan. So that scene in the beginning when he finds out that Peter is Spider-Man, you see that his face drop like, no.
And he's like, no. Because he's like, he can't stand Peter. Which is,
and then he pretends to be
Peter
Parker's
my
best
gosh,
friend.
When he, like that whole book he made, like he wrote Flashpoint. I started laughing because that name, like, I mean, obviously it's like a play on his name, but it also made me think of the Flash in that storyline.
And it's hard to believe that there wasn't some discussion of like maybe that being a joke about the Flash movie, but I did think that was pretty on the nose and everything, and pretty funny. Now I gotta, jumping forward to the end of the movie when everyone forgets Peter Parker, do you think, like, what happens to Flash's book? Does it not exist anymore? The book that helped him get into MIT and everything, like, is his life ruined?
Yeah, that's a good question. Like, maybe it erased it because actually it probably did erase it, because the record of Peter Parker going to high school is non-existent. That's why you see him with the GED book.
Yes, yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point.
So yeah,
and I'm. Let's talk about the implications about that a little bit, because I think it's pretty profound that he basically doesn't have a record on file anymore, anywhere. Like the whole world has forgotten Peter Parker. I think that's crazy. Like, how do you get around without a social security number, without a driver's license, without any record?
You don't need a driver's license when you can thwip.
Right.
But so I'm actually glad that we're on this point, because it got me thinking. The memory of Peter Parker was erased. That means everybody. Considering everybody, all the Avengers and all that stuff. Is that Sony's way of plucking him out of the MCU?
So there's two ways to look at it. We know that Kevin Feige and Amy Pascal are moving forward with Spider-Man 4. Like the MCU Spider-Man 4. So we know that he's sticking around in the MCU. That's been confirmed by the producers. But I think that could have been a way to pluck him from the MCU.
They could have. They very easily could have.
There's a theory that I think is really fascinating, because technically Peter said, "I want everyone in the world to forget Peter Parker." He didn't say the universe. So everyone not on planet may still remember Peter Parker, including Thor, the Guardians, Carol Danvers, Fury.
Oh my gosh, dude! And they actually laid that point earlier in the film that he's been off planet.
Yes. So that might be something that they're not planning on revealing until like way down the line, but it works out because he didn't say everyone ever, he just said everyone in the world.
Right. Yeah. So and then that's what had got me thinking. I was like, oh man, are they like trying to take him out of the MCU? Also, that suit at the end, very like classic Spider-Man.
Yeah, no, that might be like one of the best suits that they've ever shown, like in a live action Spider-Man, in terms of like the iconic nature of it. It just looks slick.
Dude, looks like right out of a comic book, man.
Yeah,
it looks so good.
And people have like stopped the frame, to like look at like the logo on his chest, and it's pretty much a combination of Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield's like Spider-Man logo.
Okay,
which I think is pretty sick.
Like I feel like he was inspired to make that new suit because of them.
Oh yeah, for sure. Because previously a lot of the suits that he's had, most of the suits that he's had, have been Stark Tech, and that's obviously going to change because now he has no Stark Tech.
Right.
He was taken by Damage Control, and
he no longer exists.
Yeah, he no longer has any connections. Even Happy didn't remember him at the end of the film.
Right.
So there's that. But we're getting way off target. Let's go back to the bridge where we meet Doc Ock.
Oh man,
your boy. Talk to me a little bit about your emotions in this scene.
I mean, based off the trailers and stuff, I mean, you see the bridge starting to break up a little bit. You know who it is. You know who's coming up. But when you see him, and even then, like, the theater knew who it was, but when they saw him, they still screamed because I mean, it was great to see him. It was like, man, it was, and it
looked good.
It looked so good. It was great to see him. It was a good fight, man. It was a really, really good fight. A good Doc Ock and Spider-Man fight, and it was good to see. It was a different type of fight. It wasn't. I felt like the ones in Spider-Man 2 were mostly like vertical or like at the side of a building or inside of a train. This one was like just straight up on a bridge. They're fighting. There's a little bit of verticality to it, but they're straight up fighting, and it was a good fight. I loved when he brought out the tentacles from the Iron Spider suit, and Doc Ock is like, looks like we have some competition.
Yeah, at what point did he realize that this isn't anything like he's seen from Peter Parker up until now? Like, it got kind of at a certain point like a little ridiculous,
right? Like
but
he must have been like, dang, like when the heck did he get this? No, but it was great to see him, and you know when he like that realization that wasn't Peter, like he really like sold it. He's like that like confusion. So
now the
good.
next villain that pops up, there are a couple plot holes in this movie that I think we should talk about. But one, so two potential plot holes. Electro never finds out that Peter Parker is Spider-Man in The Amazing Spider-Man 2. So how did he come? There's really no answer for it. So yeah, I don't know about that.
Oh, that's true. And they kind of addressed that at the end of the film too. The fact that he didn't know who he was, like what he looked like.
Yeah. So I'm curious how he came into this universe. And then at the end, we have the Tom Hardy Venom Eddie Brock character in the I think it's the mid-credit scene. And he specifically has never met a Spider-Man, let alone a Peter Parker. So I'm curious about that, but someone brought up to my attention, and now I don't know this for sure because I have not seen the Venom films, but apparently in Venom 2, Let There Be Carnage, there's a line where the symbiote says that he has a hive mind with every other universe's symbiote. Meaning that if there are any symbiotes in, say, Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man universe that know who he is,
that's true,
he would also know that information as well. So that could be an answer as to why he was brought. But Electro, not so much. As far as what I believe to be the biggest plot hole, though, and I think it changes the overall story of what happens in the original Spider-Man trilogy, is Doc Ock should not know that Norman Osborn was Green Goblin, because by the time that Spider-Man 2 happened, Harry didn't even know that his father was the Green Goblin at that point. It wasn't until after Doc Ock's death that Harry figured out that his father was the Green Goblin and decided to take up his mantle, thinking that Spider-Man killed him. So that also falls into conflict with something that the Sandman says, like, it was all over the news. Green Goblin was killed by his glider and blah, blah, blah. But that can't be possible. Like, nobody knew that Norman Osborn was the Green Goblin. And remember, if you remember correctly, Spider-Man actually took Norman Osborn out of the costume and brought him home, and that's how Harry saw that, like, he thought that Spider-Man had killed his father.
Right.
So it's impossible for the news to know that Norman Osborn was in the Green Goblin outfit. So how did those characters know that he was the Green Goblin and the specific details about how he died? It just kind of, to me, that changes the whole way that, like, it changes all the reveals by the second and third Spider-Man movies, and I don't like that part of the film because that's a pretty meaningful plot hole. You know, like with Electro, I can overlook it. It's obviously a mistake, or they didn't explain it well enough. With this, they did explain it, but it makes no sense with what we already know. So that's a continuity error, and that's my biggest flaw with the movie. But other than that, I'm pretty much all praise. And here's the thing. You can pull on any one of these plot threads and, you know, pull hard enough and the whole film will untangle. It's not like it's not the most cohesive story ever told.
Right.
But it's has so much heart that I don't even care. You know, like the way it made me feel supersedes everything else.
Yeah, it's it's kind of like Kingdom Hearts, you know. The way Kingdom Hearts makes you feel supersedes the fact that it's super convoluted
and likely doesn't make any sense. I've not actually experienced a cohesive answer as to the story of Kingdom Hearts that makes sense.
This is how it makes you feel.
From any logicals. It's how it makes you feel. You're right. That's a good way to put it. It's kind of like Kingdom Hearts in that respect, but it is more cohesive.
Yeah. No, I totally. Yeah, you're right. I will say that, and I mean, you could think any other way. But I feel that at least we wouldn't have gotten this film this soon if it weren't for Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah,
I don't think that this film
it
really
could
would
be.
have existed without Into the Spider-Verse. Because, dude, I absolutely love that film.
Yeah, it's Into the Spider-Verse is probably my number 3 in terms of favorite Spider-Man films.
Can't wait for the second one.
Yeah, the second one looks amazing. Across the Spider-Verse Part 1.
I know, you saw that? Part 1 is like, oh boy. Gonna have
yeah,
another one.
More of that, please. The creativity on that, it just oozes in every single frame of that movie. So I'm excited about that. But let's get back to the story.
Yes.
So Green Goblin shows up just after the fight with Doc Ock. That's when he says Norman Osborn, and the pumpkin bomb goes off and everything.
Right, and he's sporting that mask just as if he came right out of Spider-Man 1.
Yes, and man, what a good villain! He has instantly become top tier MCU villain just by jumping into another universe. It's amazing. Willem Dafoe blew my mind with this movie.
Bro, Willem Dafoe, he was a good Green Goblin in that first one. But dude, like, what has he been doing? Like, has he been like studying Green Goblin lore or something? Because this man, like, he upped it, man.
Yeah,
it was like he had like he was like Green Goblin / Joker. Like, I mean, he was insane, like maniacal. The fact that he had that split personality and he was able to like flip it on like that. And that voice he made that you knew he was in Green Goblin mode. Oh, man. Dude.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Dude. Oh, man. I already liked him from Spider-Man 1, but I like him even more. I'm like, dude, I was like, how could he possibly how could he have gotten better? He got way better.
When they're fighting, when Tom Holland is like fighting him in the hallway, and he's like just punching and like you just see him smiling up at Peter,
right.
And I'm just like, oh my god, this guy's gonna go nuts.
I know, he's like, I know, and it's crazy because like he's getting like whomped on like by Spider-Man, and he's just like, and he starts laughing too, and he just like, and like the way he just like throws him through the ground and all stuff, the fighting, oh my gosh, dude. Oh my gosh, dude. Willem Dafoe. That man. And so I was reading that he agreed to come on aboard because they allowed him to do stunts. He wanted to do stunts. And I saw a video, he's like, dude, that's all part of the fun, man. He likes it. He wants to have fun. He has fun with it.
That's exciting. Yeah, I'm happy about that. Because a lot of these guys will get stunt, even like the action stars, they'll get stunt doubles.
Yeah.
So the fact that he did at least most of his stunts is really cool.
Yeah, man, he was fantastic. Absolutely, like, dude, like one of the highlights of this film was like, and it's crazy because it's like he's from the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. He's not even from this universe. And it's like, dang, man, he's like become my favorite villain of the MCU, and he's not even part of the MCU.
Yeah, but like technically he's not. But now he kind of is, I guess.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about motivations and like the different villains' motivations throughout the film. And I think it all kind of stems with me kind of not forcing Peter to do anything, but guiding him to try to do better. To try to do better than what these villains got in their own universes. Because many of them die, many of them are taken from these universes the moment before they die.
Right.
So she's like, try to fix them. See if you can help. And that kind of becomes his mission for this movie. And, oh, dude, that scene in the apartment where all of a sudden he feels something's wrong and he's in a room with 5 different villains. and he doesn't know who it is. So like the camera like zooms out on his face, and it's like his spider senses are going nuts, and it follows him around the room. That scene was amazing.
Right, because I think he was kind of sensing the cascade of what was about to happen, and I mean and then at that point he had only fixed Doc Ock, the chip on the back of his neck that got fried.
Yeah. So going back to motivations. So when you start with Doc Ock, you have a character who's clearly, he has split personalities, not like within his own psyche, but the arms that are attached to his back and his like cerebral cortex are a mind and like will of their own. So he is controlled by them for a good portion of the film, just like he was in Spider-Man 2. But with this, he gets that chip fixed pretty quick, and Norman actually helps Peter do that. And
right, because he's in Norman mode.
He's in Norman mode. So I've seen a lot of people complain that these villains have no beef with Peter in this universe. And that's not true at all. If anything, it's a fight or flight instinct that they have to engage with Peter. And we'll discuss why. But when it comes to Green Goblin, I think that his motivations to fight Peter are even stronger than they were in the first Spider-Man movie. So in the first Spider-Man movie, this is just a crazy guy who has been fired from his job. He takes this experimental serum that turns him into the Green Goblin, gives him an alternate personality, and he goes on a rampage and occasionally interacts with Spider-Man, and eventually Spider-Man gets into his way enough for him to have like personal beef with Peter Parker and starts attacking his family and stuff. With this movie, the Green Goblin realizes that, so you have to remember, this is a character with split personalities.
Yeah.
If Peter fixes him thanks to May's counsel, that means that the Green Goblin side of things essentially dies. So the Green Goblin does not want to die.
Yeah.
But if they send him back without fixing him, then both him and Norman die. So it's a lose-lose for the Green Goblin. The only way that he can survive is by taking over this universe.
Right, and you kind of get that. And you kind of see that later in that last fight, too.
Yeah, absolutely. So Norman has to face off against Peter. Like, Peter has the box to send him away. He needs to take that away from Peter or kill Peter. Those are his only two options to survive any further, basically. So I think the motivations for these characters are actually really strong. Now, going over to, like, Electro, this is a character who is power hungry. Literally, he's power hungry. And there's a whole bunch of new power in the MCU. And I think that's kind of like a fascinating way to look at it, because the MCU has magic. It has the arc reactors that Tony Stark made, which is
essentially like a compact version of what Doc Ock was going for.
Yeah, it's like a fusion reaction, fusion reactor. So I think that's a pretty cool way to look at like Electro's perspective of the universe that he entered into. Doc Ock got this perspective that like, oh, he's introduced to nanobites, and this kind of integrates with his own tech and takes over because it's just that much more powerful or that much more sophisticated. With Electro, it's an entirely different universe's power that he is just kind of like addicted to. It's like a new drug that he's trying, and he doesn't want to stop it.
Yeah.
So I get why he doesn't want to. Also, without his Electro powers, he was a nobody in his universe.
Yeah.
And he says that so much. He says that in the film. So I kind of feel bad for him in and of itself. But I think that his plight was interesting as well. Lizard, he just wanted everyone to be lizards.
Yeah, I like how they talk about like what happens essentially like in each of those films.
Yeah.
And when they hit that realization of when they're gonna die, that they're about to die, that they were about to die, Electro's was the funniest. Jamie Foxx, he's like, yeah, I was putting a beat down on Spider-Man, and I was in the grid, and he's like, oh, now I think about it, yeah, I was about to die.
Yeah, so that's good. I don't think Sandman dies. No, he doesn't die in Spider-Man 3. So he likely just lives on and was just taken from a different point in his time. Right.
Because when we get introduced, he helps Peter.
Yeah. So he's an aide to Peter. Although he still seems like a character on the run. He's still wary of people he doesn't trust.
Right.
When Peter starts, zapping people to like go to the Sanctum's like dungeon area, he freaks out and starts attacking Peter because he doesn't trust this Peter. He's a guy with little trust, and that makes sense. Like his motivations, his actions make sense to me. Is that everyone? Yeah, it's everyone. So.
Oh, we didn't talk about the tree.
The magic tree. Yeah, we haven't talked about Ned or MJ yet.
Right.
I think those are kind of the constants in this Spider-Man trilogy that are just joys to enjoy on screen.
Right. Yeah, I really do like them.
Yeah. So what's great is that Ned gets a special arc in this story that I wasn't expecting. He says he has like magic in his family lineage, and sometimes he gets like tingly feeling in his fingers, and Doctor Strange's like, you should get that checked out.
Yeah, he's like, you should go to your physician with that. Yeah, no, that was like pretty cool. We didn't even talk about that whole scuffle between Doctor Strange and Spider-Man.
Yeah, there's so much that we're gonna miss from this conversation, but I think we're gonna hit the big beats at the very least.
Yeah, that's a big beat.
With the kerfuffle with Doctor Strange, I thought that was a lot of fun. They go into the mirror dimension, and Spider-Man isn't like scared by what he sees, even though everyone else normally would be scared by like buildings on top of each other and like warping, but he's just kind of taking it in stride, and he's more in a state of like amazement at all the stuff that's happening in this fight that and it works in his favor because he likes math, and he realizes that through math he can like through geometry basically he can take the relic from Doctor Strange and trap him in the mirror dimension, which he does, and he takes the sling ring as well.
Right. And that was the first part of like, and I was happy they actually did that, and I was like, oh wow, they actually showed that Peter is smart.
Yeah, they very rarely do that, even though like he created his own web fluid, and his he gets into a prestigious like science school and everything, and he's in the decathlon and Homecoming. They don't really discuss much of his strengths as a little genius, basically, that he is.
Right. I mean, he's a scientist essentially.
Yeah. So they touch on that quite a bit in this movie, which I'm pleased about. And yeah, so Ned ends up getting the sling ring, and is like several times throughout the movie, like he like gets he does something with his hands, and you see like a portal start to open up. But it isn't until he tries to, see Peter Parker that it works.
I love that, dude. That was the moment where, bro, like people were screaming like crazy in this part. When they were at, it was in that moment where they're looking for. Well, actually, let's just take a little step back from that.
Yeah, I realized the same thing.
We most important, really the tipping point for the film.
Yeah,
was during that fight with Green Goblin.
Yes,
and this is where we get like an important like Peter Parker moment for this universe, for the MCU.
Yeah, and this ties in with what I was saying about how like this movie is about being Peter Parker.
Yeah,
and the responsibility that brings. So in both previous iterations of the Spider-Man universe, they go into with great power comes great responsibility thing. Shortly after, Ben is shot and eventually dies, that's a catalyst for both of those stories to really begin and to like motivate the characters to continue being heroic and doing the right thing. Peter never got that in the Homecoming stuff, and we just kind of assumed it did happen because obviously Ben is no longer in the picture. But now with this film, we finally get that moment, that life-changing moment for Peter. His aunt is killed by one of, his new enemies.
Right.
And it was actually I thought it was a really touching moment because like she kind of walks off the blow to her back, and I was just like, oh, I thought she was dead for sure.
Yeah, right.
And she starts stumbling, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah, when I started like kind of seeing the stumbling and then like the shaking, I was like, okay. So they're drawing this one out kind of like Toby. Like it kind of had like that same impact that the Tobey Maguire one did. They really didn't put too much. I feel like you didn't get that much with the Andrew Garfield one. Like I feel like there wasn't that much emotional stake behind the Andrew Garfield one, but the Tobey Maguire one and this one had more. There was more investment there, so you actually like felt it when these characters die.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's like a long scene where she starts like losing consciousness, and Peter's just like, he starts actually getting like kind of like upset with her, like, look at me, and you feel his pain and everything. And that's when Happy rides up, and he's in love with Aunt May, so you see his pain too. And then to top it all off, J. Jonah Jameson is outside with Department of Damage Control, and they shoot him while his aunt is dying on the floor. It's just a super sad scene.
Yeah, they really, and I do have to applaud Tom Holland. Like his acting and like expressing that pain was really good in that moment.
Yeah, you definitely don't question it. You think it's as real to Tom Holland in that moment as a real death, and it's crazy. It's beautiful and it's tragic, and it's exactly what Spider-Man needs to become the person that he needs to be, basically. So I think it's a long time coming for that character to get that stuff. But as upset that I am that Aunt May is dead, I'm happy that he got that moment. So Aunt May actually said the actual quote. Every Spider-Man film so far has misquoted the original Stan Lee thing. So in Amazing Fantasy number 15, which is Spider-Man's origin story, first time he's ever introduced in the comics, it's with great power there must also come great responsibility. And then this movie is the first time they actually quoted it correctly.
Yeah.
Versus with great power comes great responsibility. Obviously that is just it's more succinct and it sounds a little bit better, honestly. But it's cool that they got the original quote.
And so yeah, it was in that moment. It was like after that you have, like a devastated Peter, and I liked how it kind of continued on, and it wasn't like it happened in the moment, and then it didn't seem like it had it's like, oh, it didn't happen, it was just a moment in the movie, and then they just continued on. It affected the film as it went on.
Yeah, it affected the tone of the film for the rest of it. So when I think of stuff like Star Wars, when Aunt Beru and Uncle Owen die, there's a turning point in the sense that now Luke has nothing left at home. He's going to go off on this adventure with Obi-Wan Kenobi to save the princess. But we don't get any more mourning from him, even though he's grown up with these people for the last 18 years of his life.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, there's a disconnect there that there isn't in No Way Home that I appreciate. But let's go back to Ned's apartment. Obviously they see on the news something's going down with the apartment building. They don't know exactly what the issue is, I don't think, at this point. But they figure it out by the time that they get to Peter on the rooftop. But anyway, so in the apartment,
they do.
Ned...
MJ does says that that they're the only ones that Peter has. Yeah, I think okay. No, I think that they realized it just before that. I don't know if they announced it or whatever on who exactly died, but MJ did seem to realize that she was the only.
Yeah,
that
you're right.
Her
you're
and
right.
Ned were the only ones that he had.
Were his support system. Yeah. So that's when Ned, starts trying to look for Peter Parker, and that's when I knew that it wasn't going to be Tom Holland, because it's a very specific question, or a specific spell basically. Let me see Peter Parker, and obviously Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man walks out, and dude, he just exemplifies the role. He jumps right back into it.
Yeah,
it doesn't feel like a day has passed. You could tell like this is the role that he's like meant to play, and he steals the show in every scene that he's in my opinion.
I really, really enjoyed him. I feel like this was like the second chance that he needed as Spider-Man, and he nailed it, dude. Like, and the thing is that as much crap as like people had spoken about his films, we all still wanted to see him in it, along with Toby.
Yeah, absolutely.
And dude, I loved his moment there. Especially with like Ned's like grandmother. They're like, MJ and them, they're kind of like very like wary, and she's like, they're not sure, like it's like, you're not Peter Parker, who the heck are you? And then like when she throws the bread the bread at him, he's like,
yeah,
why'd you do that?
Don't you have the tingle? And he's just like, I have the tingle, but not for bread.
And he's like, crawl on the roof. He's like, I'm not gonna do that. And he's like, and then like when he does like that thing, and she's like,
yeah,
that's not enough. Like, crawl around, that's not enough. He's like, this is plenty enough. And it's not until like the grandmother, like I don't know, are they like Filipino or whatever? I think she was speaking Tagalog or something.
It was like either Tagalog or Malaysian. Might be Malaysian.
Something.
I'm not sure, to be honest.
And then she's like, "Can you get that cobweb over?"
Yeah.
It was a beautiful moment.
Then of course the second portal, and Tobey Maguire comes out in his more casual attire. Dude, the theater erupted.
What was it? Yeah, let me tell you, the theater screams for Andrew Garfield, and then like when Tobey Maguire, oh man, bro, like everybody was like, ah!
Dude, when I'm in like that kind of state, I get frozen. Like I'm just like, you can't see it, people listening, obviously, but like I have like my mouth open, and basically I just stop breathing for like a couple seconds. So there's no way that I can yell or whatever in that moment, but it's just the emotions hit me in a way that I'm just like, I just get like, I shut down. I'm like so silent because I just want to experience everything all at once. It's like a weird backwards thing that I do in those type of moments where everyone else is screaming. But yeah, dude, that's such a seeing our hero, Tobey Maguire, Spider-Man, show up on screen again.
I know.
I remember being in school. And this guy was like he was Spider-Man. Dude.
Yeah. No, I remember that. Like playing the games based off his movies, and
Spider-Man. I think it was either Spider-Man 2 or Spider-Man 3.
It was the second one.
Fantastic. Yeah, Spider-Man 2 is so good.
That's when they brought the open world.
Yes.
But yeah, man, it was so great seeing him. I was like, oh man, they got him back. Dude, some moments you want to be in a theater to experience, and like that's one of those moments. Like, being on opening night, experiencing this with other people, and like having people around you enjoying something, and I don't know, I just like I soak that up. I love that, just being in that moment.
Yeah, totally agree.
And yeah, that was just such a great moment. That when they both kind of realized that they're not the Peter that those that MJ and Ned were looking for, and they like shot the webs at each other, which we got also another great scene from Ned's grandmother saying to clean up your webs.
Yes.
She's like, I'm going to bed.
There were a couple memes in this. I don't know if you caught them, obviously. Like, the one where like the three Spider-Men are pointing at each other?
Yes.
They did that in the lab when they're all together. So that's pretty fun. And then of course we had Norman Osborn being like, I'm something of a scientist myself.
Dude, bro, people died laughing when he said that.
It's so funny, dude. It's so good.
Like I said, bro, fan service film. But it was like one that was executed great. Bro, it was, dude, yeah, I loved it. And then after that's where we get that really great moment where it's cool that the Spider-Men talk about the places that they would go to kind of unwind and to get away from everything. And, when they went to Tom Holland's, Peter Parker's, kind of like Solitude's place, that was a really great moment on that rooftop. That was really good. Yeah, I loved. That was a good Peter Parker moment
for all three of the characters.
Yes.
But before that, we have the great shot of MJ and Peter like hugging him from both sides while he's like cradled.
Oh, and MJ and Ned. That was
such a good shot.
Really, really good. That was, like I felt like I hadn't experienced like that unity since like Harry Potter.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, because there are three kids against the world basically at this point.
Yeah.
So that actually is a good comparison there. Let's talk a little bit about like what the futures of these two other Spider-Men look like after their films end. So we know that after Gwen Stacy died in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, Andrew Garfield basically says that he stopped holding his punches back. He got angry, he got vengeful, and he stopped basically being Peter Parker to like solely be Spider-Man. So I think that's an interesting. I think after this they're gonna go back and give us an Amazing Spider-Man 3. I think that.
Dude, let me tell you, bro, the emotion that Andrew Garfield like had in that moment, bro, like you felt it. I was like, man, he's like really performing amazing right now. Like I mean, he really sold like the remorse that he was feeling, like the hurt that he was feeling on the inside that he had, what he had become. Mm-hmm. And definitely. Like, man, I was like, wow, man. I was like, yo, Andrew Garfield is like nailing it right now.
There was a couple times where I was like tearing up.
Yeah, right.
Obviously, honestly, choked up because. Like I had just watched the Gwen Stacy scene like a couple days prior to seeing No Way Home, so I was just like I was fresh out of that hell, and and dude, it brought back all the emotions again, and yeah, Andrew Garfield went above and beyond with reprising that role, and Tobey Maguire, he's an interesting character because his performance is a lot more subtle.
Yes.
So compared to the more enigmatic and like sporadic character that Andrew Garfield brings to the screen, Toby is a lot more laid back. He has like those like old soul eyes, like he seems like he's like seen things, and but he's like comfort Peter Parker,
right? And that's exactly how he plays it out too. He's almost he's almost like Father Peter Parker.
Definitely, yeah. He was the mentor of the bunch because he was the one like, saying, "Oh no, dude, you're amazing. You're amazing," to Andrew Garfield, as well as the fact that with Peter, he was instantly in tune with the fact that like Aunt May had just told him, with great power comes great responsibility, and they had that whole little side
right, and like,
which I thought was so good.
The hurt that the other two, like Tom Holland's Peter Parker couldn't, he couldn't see past. He's like, nobody could possibly be understanding what I'm feeling, but the crazy thing is that the spectator knows that they know exactly what he's going through.
Yeah.
And it's like, and so when they're talking about their experiences, like, dude, that was like a moment in the film that there's no action going on, absolutely, but it was like one of my favorite moments of the film.
Oh yeah, dude, some of the best scenes in superhero movies are the scenes where people are just talking about their emotions, because at the end of the day, these are characters who, even though they have superpowers, even though they experience crazy events on a daily basis, it's the human emotions that make them believable. It makes them relatable, and it makes you love them, because those are the things that we can latch onto and truly understand, and then, you know, experience the rest of their crazy life as a movie or a comic book, you know, details. But it's those little moments where like characters are just sitting around talking that are the most enjoyable for me, because that's where most of the movie happens, in my opinion.
And then, you know, we also get the you know, Tobey Maguire, how he kind of hunts down the carjacker, and he ends up dying. You know, we see that in the film, but he talks about that, and yeah, dude, I absolutely, like, that was like one of my, it was the introduction of all three of them together.
Yeah.
But it really, really did a lot. And, you know, at the end of the day, they really actually pushed the story of this Spider-Man forward. They actually helped. It's like those two didn't have anybody to like really like help them get through that moment. To you know, Andrew Garfield, you know, they didn't have another Spider-Man. Tobey Maguire didn't have another Spider-Man. They kind of had their own thing. But, you know, Tom Holland now is like, there's other Spider-Men out there that, wow,
have this lived experience.
Yeah, exactly.
So even though at the end, when he is alone in the entire world, like nobody knows Peter Parker, he knows that there are other Peter Parkers that are going through similar-ish emotional troubles throughout their lives, and it's not just him. And I think that is a comfort, or it should be a comfort to him, you know?
Yeah.
Like, this is part of my cosmic story.
Yeah.
We have some great scenes as they're like fixing up some antidotes for some of the villains and stuff. But let's jump to the fight at the end on the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah.
I think it's fun that he called J. Jonah Jameson to basically like broadcast to the world, like, this is where I am, villains, you can come and face off against me. He didn't say that there were multiple Peter Parkers there present as well, but that whole sequence is just, it takes its time. You know, it's not rushed. The final act is not rushed, and it's super satisfying. Right.
It was just before that, the Peters agree to help these individuals instead of, you know, sending them back to where they're gonna die, which we actually get like another good Peter Parker like smart moment, like, oh wow, they're smart, they're building these devices.
That's true.
They talk a little bit about it, and I told you I wanted this scene about how Tobey Maguire has organic webs.
Yes, that is a fantastic, like, they bring that up a couple times, like, yes. So you have like web fluid coming out of you, and they're both just like, how does that work?
I know. Was it Tom Holland, like, what he says, like, I'm just like, this, I was like, you're a fool. But he's like, it comes out of your, does it just come out of your wrist? Or does it come out of anywhere else? Like, they're just like, we're not making fun of you, but how does that work? They're talking about web block and all that stuff.
Yeah,
that was a good little moment. But yeah, so back to the fight. Yeah, the sequence does take some time, and they're not like in sync, because the other two Spider-Men aren't used to working on teams. Whereas Tom Holland, he's used to working on a team, and they address the fact that there's no Avengers in both of those universes.
Yeah, so actually, I want to talk a little bit about like Doctor Strange a little bit, because in Spider-Man 2, J. Jonah Jameson is trying to name Dr. Octopus. He goes, "Doctor Strange? Nah, it's taken." So I'm assuming there must be just another Doctor Strange in that universe that's not a magical being, because clearly they would know that magic exists in the Tobey Maguire movies. So that's just an interesting little detail there. But the fact that they don't have the Avengers there, I loved what Tobey's like. He's just like, wow, that's great. What's that?
Yes, dude. I love. Dude, that made me laugh. Oh my gosh.
You in a boy band?
Yeah. Are you in a band? This Andrew Garfield. I do like the old man Spidey's like, man, my back, from all those years of swinging. And then the line that Andrew Garfield says before that moment, he's like, he said we're going into fight. Are you gonna stay dressed up as a cool youth pastor?
Yeah, because I was thinking the same thing. I was just like,
where's the suit at? But classic Toby wearing it under his clothes.
Yeah,
dude, that was awesome.
That was good. There's so many great moments in that, like when they're trying to like coordinate like who Peter 1, Peter 2, and Peter 3 are. I love Andrew Garfield's delivery of like Peter 3. Like he's already relegated himself to,
I'm just ready to go like Peter 3.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Dude, yeah, I'm telling you, like, this film, there's just so much about it to love. That last fight, it was really, really good, especially when they got coordinated. The boosted up Electro was really, really cool, and you got like when you saw some of the lightning flash, you got that Electro mask.
Yeah,
I was like, ooh, classic. Look. No, it was really
yeah.
good. Especially when the Peters synchronized and they kind of like, they coordinated. It was really, really cool.
I love when they were swinging together.
Yes.
And they were like just kind of like grabbing each other and like swinging them up like further. Dude, that was so cool.
I know, and then they're like when they like jumped off and they're like, woo! I was like, that's Spider-Man right there.
And then when they all do the pose,
yes,
like on the head of the statue. I think it's the head of the Statue of Liberty. Dude, when I make my next timeline video, that's gonna be the thumbnail right there.
Dude, it was.
I'm gonna have MCU timeline just like in between those characters. Yeah, that's it.
So when you do MCU timeline, is that gonna include those other movies too? Which you know what? Actually, there's a funny meme that says, okay, so with the Spider-Man movie, this is before like we knew about Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire officially. It's like, do I have to watch Spider-Man 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and 1, 2 to understand this movie? I feel yes and no. Yes, if you truly want to appreciate it.
Yeah.
But no, because they explain some of this stuff. But I feel like if you want the bigger picture, yeah, you definitely want to watch that.
What I'm amazed by, and this has to be, a huge deal, is the fact that there's a bunch of people who have never seen the Amazing Spider-Man films that are probably now super interested in that version of Spider-Man. This was basically a Doctor Who anniversary special, like with a massive budget and like a really good script. Like that's pretty much the best way that I can describe it. It's a Doctor Who anniversary special. It's a fan service, just spectacular. And now that all these individuals are learning about Andrew Garfield and he's a compelling Peter Parker and Spider-Man, I think they're going to revisit his films. And I think that was the ultimate goal, was to reboot at least one of these dead franchises,
man, like I said, man, the reason why I like this film is like I felt like it just did so much, and it really did. Like, dude, like I said, I really enjoyed some of these characters that like I said, the Andrew Garfield films, I don't think we were ready for them, and I just don't think that they were done completely all that well. But these characters, they got a second chance. I think Jamie Foxx did way better than he did in the Amazing Spider-Man 2. Andrew Garfield, bro, let me tell you, he took the performance and he went way, he did really good. He did really, really good. Tobey Maguire, he could do whatever. Everybody loves him.
A big part of Peter's motivation moving forward after May's death is that he feels angry. He feels like he just wants revenge on the Goblin. He wants to take it out on Norman Osborn. And he does.
Yeah, he
takes
really
it out.
Does.
He uses some like Spider-Man PS4 moves on him.
Yeah, he really does. I'm like, woo.
He like lifts him up over his head and like drops him. Dude, he was that whole fight was just brutal, and you felt it's an interesting thing because you don't want him to kill Norman Osborn, but you feel vindicated with every punch, every kick, every throw.
Right.
And the Goblin deserves it, but Norman doesn't. That was so good. And the fact that like Toby stopped him at the end there, that was awesome.
Yeah. And then the fact that like he used one of those pumpkin bombs to blow up that like spell box, dude. Yes. That was it, man. Like he was. And then the guy's vicious. What was it? And then right before like that scuffle, like MJ falls. It's like almost like in Amazing Spider-Man like fashion. And so like in the trailers they made it like Tom Holland was gonna catch him, but he gets knocked away by the Green Goblin, and we get a good fan service moment where Andrew Garfield saves her, and bro, the emotion like just gushes from him. And he's like, he's like, "Are you okay?" And he's like, he wants to cry because he's like, it's like he was like given a second chance essentially.
Yeah.
And MJ's like, "Are you gonna be okay?"
I know, dude. It's so funny. It's so good. Yeah, these movies, it's such a joy. It really is such a joy. So that was awesome.
And
I was super pleased about that.
Bro, I thought they were about to try to kill off Tobey Maguire though. When Green Goblin
so he gets stabbed. So that was I think that was kind of like a cop out. Like it seemed like he was supposed to die, but they're just like, nah, never mind. I've been stabbed before.
Yeah, he's like, and then I love that line that he says. He's like, "Am I dying or is that real?" With the like multiverse.
Oh. Yeah. So what's cool about that scene is that like if you pause it, and like look at all the like figures that are in the sky, you can see some of his other villains like from different that never made it into the movies. Like you have the Rhino.
Yeah, I saw that.
Kraven the Hunter. You have Scorpion. Some people saw Black Cat and other people. So, dude, it was such cool little details there. And anyway, we're getting to the 2-hour mark of this video, so we gotta cut it up.
Yeah, definitely.
We gotta cut it to a close. But Peter makes the mature decision to stop it all by asking Doctor Strange to just let everyone in the world forget about Peter Parker.
Right, because he's having a hard time containing the multiverse. Like all these beings are coming in, and he can't stop it. And so the only way to stop it is for everyone to forget about Peter Parker. And even Doctor Strange is like, he knows that's the right thing to do, but he doesn't want to do it.
Yeah, you could tell that he is impressed that Peter was able to fix at least some of these, all of them. They were able to fix all the villains by the end. And he saw true he saw true moral fortitude with that character that, he no longer saw him as a kid, I don't think, at that point. Because he was making this decision to have the entire world forget who he was. And you could tell that Doctor Strange was like sad by it, like he didn't want that because that would be the loneliest experience possible.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how that ends. He says his goodbyes, and that was a touching thing too, because he promises Ned. They do their last dab up together, and there's a lot of like emotional impact in this movie. Just from all angles.
That's what I'm saying.
From all angles.
Really, just so much emotional impact. Just like a little point, the interaction between Electro and Andrew Garfield, where they kind of nod to Miles Morales,
That was cool. Yeah. Jamie Foxx goes, you're from Queens. You save people, especially, like underprivileged people. I thought you were going to be black. There's got to be a black Spider-Man out there somewhere.
I know. He's like, I thought you were black. And then like Andrew was like, I'm sorry. But yeah, he's like,
he apologizes.
Black. Yeah, he's like, there's probably a black Spider-Man somewhere out there. Which, I mean, like, it gets him to think. He's like, if there's these bunch of different Spider-Mans, there's got to be one out there.
True. They're all variants at the end of the day. Yeah. So that's sick, man. That's a great way to end the movie, because, now Peter, a couple weeks later into December, tries to rekindle his relationship with these his best friends, and they don't remember him. And you see that moment where he's like, they're better off without me.
I know, dude. I was just like, and so like he becomes like, because he thinks about it, and he sees that cut on MJ's head, and he's like, I just don't want to put them through that. And so then we kind of get like, it's like almost like classic Spider-Man, where he's in a crappy apartment in New York and he's listening to police scanners. Yeah,
he's listening to police sirens. He makes his own suit, and it ends with the classic swinging through New York, and it's an emotional roller coaster.
Yeah.
Also, like little tidbit at the end with the mid credit scene when Eddie Brock gets sent back. I love that scene where he's just been talking to this bartender. Football is life,
dude. Oh my gosh, I was about to say, I was hoping that'd be awesome if he said that. I was like, Danny Rojas is here.
Yeah, so the actor who plays Danny Rojas in Ted Lasso is the bartender in this scene. I forget the actor's name, but he's been basically explaining how all the people in this universe, and Eddie Brock is just, he can't wrap his head around it, and then he gets sent back, but a little sliver of the Venom symbiote is left in this universe.
Right, so we're going to get an MCU Venom.
At some point, yeah, so I'm excited about that. Anthony?
Yes, and then just to like kind of end it, the very, very end credits, we get a glimpse of Doctor Strange 2, Multiverse of Madness. Looks really good. Looks like they pulled some stuff from What If.
They did, and what's great about this is that it's a Sam Raimi film, and you can instantly tell like the filmmaking caliber of just like the individual shots is just kind of on a level above most of the MCU. It's gonna be like amazing visually. So I'm super excited about that.
Yeah, man, can't wait to see Toby in that one. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
but yeah, no, it's yeah, I think that's it for this film. I think this is like our longest like podcast of like straight talking about a film.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But anyway, I'm excited about it. I think it's one of the best movies of the year. Probably the best fan experience I've had of the year. But with that, we're going to close out the podcast for 2021. Project Geekology signing out. We'll see you next year, guys.
Yes, we will see you next year. Like we said, we're going to be taking a little bit of a break, but we will be back and we'll have some new stuff, maybe a new logo, and we'll be fresh. So we can't wait to be back. While you wait, we have an entire backlog. If you haven't listened to everything, go and check it out.
Yeah, we have like a month's worth of maybe not a month. We probably have like a week's worth of content, of just straight content, because a lot of our episodes go into the 2-hour range or whatever. So we have a lot of content basically. So
yes.
Thank you guys so much. Follow us on Twitter at PGeekology and Project Geekology on Instagram. Thank you so much again. I keep saying thank you, but thank you. This has been an awesome year of podcasting, and we look to have an even better one next year. Hope you're around for it.
Yes. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.